Story update, day 20 of my journey as a writer towards writing my first fantasy novel. And today I focus on filling in some of the gaps in the first part of my story. And I still didn't feel very good about the way in which I introduced Tim. Um, it felt a bit too generic. Tim as this kind of shy, modest boy who has to take care of the cattle around the monastery. It just felt a bit too much like Luke Skywalker on Tatooine. And so I watched a video earlier today on one of the streaming platforms, and that was directed towards first time authors that got stuck. And the tip was this: take something away from your main character and let that influence his first need, his first want. Let that have some impact on him. And immediately I had an idea. um, Tim, of course, is going to play a major role in this story of mine that revolves around storytelling. It's the magic of storytelling. Ultimately, Tim is going to end up as the hero and maybe even as the new leader of the story mages. Definitely the one who is going to be the first of the new generation of story mages. So I need to establish right from the get-go that Tim loves stories. But how do I do that? Because Tim is not allowed to be a scribe. He's only a novice. And he looks up to the scribes that are actually spending most of their time writing stories. But he has no access to that. So how can I establish in this early phase of the story that Tim loves telling stories? And then I thought of Saint Francis, who is also a late medieval saint, but not the same era as where the monastery in my story. But I love the idea that in one of those stories that they tell about Saint Francis, he is preaching to the birds and the animals in the forest. And I think the idea was that he was in church and nobody wanted to listen to him, and so he went out into the forest and spoke to the animals. And I thought, well, what if Tim is a bit of a dreamer and he tells stories to the farm animals? And not only that, but what if Tim, as a hobby, creates these little figurines, a miniature, like minifigs, but they didn't have Lego at the time. So he would just use clay and objects that he found around the monastery or in the forest to create these little figurines. And he would play out the story like a kid with action figures, but then medieval version. And the thing is that this is actually not allowed. So Tim has created this huge collection that he keeps hidden in his cell. But because he is a novice, he has to live in poverty, and he's not allowed to have personal possessions. But he is so attached to the stories and to the figurines that he plays with, that it's just one of his secrets, and it's pretty innocent, right? And then at one point, he sees maybe from his window that Elara is in trouble. This is the save the cat moment. Go back to my earlier videos to see what exactly that means. But anyway, he rushes out to help Elara, but he leaves the door of his cell open. Because he is helping Elara, he also is too late. He misses the test that would give him access or potentially access to the rank of scribes. So he fails the exam because he doesn't show up. But to make things worse, when he returns to his cell, his collection of figurines is gone, and he is heartbroken. I mean, it took him years to build up that collection. He was very attached to it. Maybe it was even something that he took from home. Maybe it was just one of these remnants, little toys that he played with as a kid. And now it's gone, and he doesn't know where it went. Later, a bit later, he's called by the abbot, and he has to meet the abbot for he doesn't know what. The abbot, I've already established this, is a very, very harsh and the last person you actually want to put in charge of the education of young people because he's just a super unlikable guy. We know, I know that he's actually an infiltrant from the Infelict. So there's a reason that he's evil, but Tim doesn't know that. And Tim is berated by the abbot. It turns out that a cleaner has found his collection, reported it to the abbot, and the abbot says, I'm going to put this away. This is crazy. You are a novice. You should live in poverty. Your heart should be with the Lord. Instead, you're playing with toys. You're not a toddler anymore. I'm going to lock these up. And you know what? I'm going to put them in the secret tower because that is at least a place where you cannot get. And I will just put it with all the other stuff that you have no right to. And that sets up like this. It plants a seed in the mind of Tim. Later, when he meets Fortivus, I won't go into details, but at one point, Fortivus joins Elara and Tim. He also says that he wants to become a monk, and so he is living with our two friends. Um, but he has a kind of like a bad influence on the two because he says, um, you should claim the right to get access to the library, and well, you guys are way too passive. Now, what I forget to tell is when there's this pilgrimage right before this, and there is a failed attack of the Infelix trying to steal the Codex for the first time, and they flee. And Tim and Elara find a mysterious object. It turns out it is a key, but not just a key. It is a key that doesn't fit on any doors. It's way too big, but also like feels wrong. And there's something about that key. So they don't show it to the abbot, they take it with them. Fortivus, when they show him the key, knows exactly what key that is. He said, "This is a key that can only open doors to places where you have to be, where there's something that belongs to you. Try it out. After all, your toys are up there in the tower. Why don't you go there? Use this key and claim back what is rightfully yours." And Tim, of course, is like, "Yeah, I'm going to do that." So Tim sneaks out and he uses the magic key, and lo and behold, the door to the tower, the forbidden tower, opens. And he searches around, and Fortivus is coming with him and telling him, "Oh, maybe you should open that door. I look there." And ultimately, Fortivus steers him to a door that actually leads outside. It connects to a tunnel. And Fortivus said, "Oh, we've tried everywhere. Well, why don't you open that door as well?" And Tim opens that door. And immediately he is attacked by an evil spirit, like this dark angel that overwhelms him, knocks him to the ground, knocks him unconscious. And when he uh, gains consciousness, he discovers that all the monks have been killed and the codex has been stolen. And Fortivus is crying in a corner. What actually is going on is that key was meant to be found by Tim and Alara. This was all a ploy. This was all a setup because the Infelix cannot get access to the tower. It is magically sealed. The only way for them to be able to enter the tower is if someone opens it with that magic key, but they obviously are not the owners of the codex, so the key won't work for them. But since the figures of Tim are stored in that tower, the key knows this and gives him access because there's something in there that he needs to get, right? And so that is how they are able to penetrate the tower. It was all a ploy, and Fortivus has been an agent of the Infelix to try and to seek a naive monk to lure him into opening the doors to the Infelix. I like it a lot. Maybe I should. There were definitely some tweaks that I'm going to make, but I really like the idea that Tim is actually the one who gives access to the tower, and then of course he's going to be guilt ridden that he actually was the one who opened the door to the enemy. He is the cause, at least the instrumental cause, that the codex was stolen. How cool is that for a motivation for him to heed the call to adventure? Because now he has to make things right. All right, that's what I wanted to share with you. Hope you like it. Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you tomorrow.